Hey guys, welcome back to Girl on the Go DC. If you are new here, don't forget to click that subscribe button. Today we are actually not on the go. The US is currently in a state of emergency due to the coronavirus, and we've been asked to stay indoors. So today's video is going to be about what to do when you are not on the go and what to do with your free time. A lot of people I've seen on social media have been really struggling with this and how to fill their free time, but as an introvert, this is what I enjoy. I've been home since last Friday. I've left the house to go for a jog, but I've pretty much been in this neighborhood in my house for a week now. So today's video will focus on the lost art of reading a book. This actually will come in handy for travel as well. When I have long flights, I do like to read, and this first book I'm going to share with you is a book I purchased in the airport. Of course, now I don't know how delivery service is really working, so you can always get the ebook versus having to buy it, the physical copy. So this is the last book I read. It's called Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell. And I picked it up because I am an introvert and I don't like talking to strangers for the most part. I'm not the person that goes to the airport bar just to sit and mingle and meet people. If I'm at the bar, I probably am please don't talk to me type of thing. So this is initially why I picked up the book, but that's actually not what it's about at all. One thing I recommend doing when you pick up a book is to check the source. So if you pick up a book that's on an authoritative topic and it's not just a leisure read, something you're reading for fun, then I recommend finding out more about that author and if you should actually trust their opinion. So here's the little inside cover about Malcolm Gladwell, and of course you can always Google the author and see what's out there about them. But I actually had heard of a few of his other books, The Tipping Point, Outliers. I think I read The Tipping Point a while ago because it has a match on the cover, I think. But he was a reporter with the Washington Post, and he was named Time's one of the most 100 influential people. So based on a few things about him, it's a little familiar. I've read all of his books before. Time magazine has named him as something. He was a reporter. It's kind of okay, I can maybe take what he's saying into consideration. So this book, surprisingly, turns out to be really kind of a dissertation about Sandra Bland. If you're not familiar, Sandra Bland is a Black woman who was pulled over by a police officer for a routine traffic stop. I think one of her blinkers, she failed to use her turn signal when switching lanes, something like that. But this routine traffic stop ended up with her getting arrested. She recorded the incident. It was a white male officer, who forcefully removed her from her car, and she ended up going to jail and killing herself there. So this really explores the interaction between people, why this incident occurred, and I don't think he necessarily tells us how to prevent it from happening, but he gives us the tools throughout the book to understand our own behaviors and really take action within ourselves to prevent us from judging people and something like this happening. My favorite part of the book is that it helps us recognize our own biases within ourselves. There's something in the book that he calls the Friends fallacy, which is based on the TV show Friends, and I like Friends. But in the TV show Friends, you can basically watch it on mute, and the characters are so expressive in their emotions that you kind of know what they're feeling. So in the real world, that's not always what happens, but we assume based on someone's expressions, based on their reactions, we make a judgment on if they're telling the truth or not. So this has gone wrong for us in life on several occasions. One being, I guess, Fidel Castro, who fooled the CIA. The thinking is if someone can look you in your eye with a straight face and give you a handshake, they're being trustworthy, they're going to keep their word and things like that, and that's not always the case. But based on this fallacy, friend's fallacy, that these behaviors mean this, it really stirs us as a society in the wrong direction to really trust people. And so that's another part of the book where it talks about, as a society, we have to have some sort of trust, like between people. We can't just suspect everyone of doing something. Bernie Madoff apparently is another person who was very convincing and fooled a lot of people. And the reason that was able to occur is because, you don't want to accuse someone that you work with of doing something wrong if they're not doing it. So people's first inclination is to really trust and believe what that person is saying without looking too deep into it. The author tells a lot of stories throughout the book, and at the end, he leaves it all back to Sandra Bland, where we understand now her situation, where she was coming from. She just came from a job interview, her frame of mind, and where she was at that point when she got pulled over. And then we also understand the officer's point of view of what he was trained to do, how he was trained to do something in high crime areas, and he was applying that same theory to a very low crime area. And she fit a demographic that would have been on point in a high crime area. But for her, someone who had traveled out of state to go for a job interview, she had things in her car that made it look like she could possibly be trafficking drugs or be a mule, because she has fast food in the car. She has an air freshener to possibly cover up any scents, like things like that make it look like you're doing something that you're not actually doing, and things that aren't a crime. It's not a crime to have fast food in your car, but this officer was trained to look for these certain things in her behavior. She was a little nervous. She seemed anxious. She was upset. She was, being pulled over for something that she felt was not her fault. She had actually changed lanes because the officer was coming up on her very fast and she wanted to get out of his way. And he pulled her over for signaling, not signaling that she was switching lanes. So she was frustrated. He was looking for certain things. And based on that, that's really how the clash happened that never should have happened. Overall, I give Talking to Strangers an 8 out of 10 because it was a good book. I finished it. It definitely isn't one where you feel like, I'm tired of reading this. Like, you do want to see what happens next. All of the stories in it are interesting. I think the title of the book is misleading. I think if it was a book about Sandra Bland and he titled it appropriately, that would have made it a 10 out of 10 for me because I know what I'm getting myself into. But yeah, 8 out of 10. Now, moving on to fiction. On a much lighter note, if you don't want to read something as heavy as Talking to Strangers, I would recommend Silver Sparrow by Tayari Jones. So my friend actually sent this book to me. Thank you, Amber. It was like a Facebook thing where you send a friend a book. I didn't know what I was getting myself into with this. I wasn't even familiar with this author, but I hadn't read a fiction book in a while, so I told myself, just dive into it, see what happens. And I really thoroughly enjoyed this tale. Silver Sparrow is about so many things, but basically there's 2 sisters. This man has his wife and his mistress. There's 2 sisters that don't know each other, but the mistress and her daughter know that there's a wife in another family. The wife and her daughter don't know there's a mistress and another daughter. So eventually, the mistress's daughter is seeking out her sister. She wants to know more about that family, and it kind of follows that tale. Super interesting things in here to me about like how the mistress stayed a mistress for so long, how this guy who they describe as not being attractive at all is pulling, these women and doing these type of things, and then how the kids get tangled up into it. So if you're looking for a read that I'd say it's lighter because it's fiction, but it does have a lot of heavy topics in it, but definitely a good read. Here is Tayari Jones, beautiful Black woman. So I always like to support Black authors as well. The last book I'm going to recommend for you all today is The Circle Maker by Mark Batterson. I actually got this book for free by visiting their church in DC. Mark Batterson is a pastor at National Community Church, NCC. You can find their website and stream their services if you're interested, which I would recommend. Church is really cool. It's in a theater. The one I went to, I think there's different locations, but I went to the Eastern Market location. It's like an old theater there, and the church, like when you go in, they give you popcorn, and sometimes they have donuts, and then you're in a movie theater. So I just like the whole feel of it. It's not like, it's come as you are, casual, super dressed down, and of course, they give the first time guests this book for free. So jumping into the Circle Maker, it's about praying circles around your biggest dreams and greatest fears. So if you are in a point in life where you're seeking God, you're seeking a change in life, you're asking God for something, you're trying to get over a fear, this is definitely a great read for that. It looks like I bookmarked a page, so I'm gonna see what I bookmarked because I haven't read this in a while. The Circle Maker is based on the legend of Honi the Circle Maker, H-O-N-I, I think it's Honi. So he's mentioned in the Bible at least once. There are criticisms of this book. Here's the pastor here, Mark Batterson, saying that it's a legend and I guess it's not biblical, drawing circles. But I think whatever brings you closer to God, if the Circle Maker helps you with your prayer, if it helps you focus on the things that you want to be intentional about, you can still put it to good use, whether, this is actually something people consider to be a biblical principle or not. But the page that I bookmarked here, I'm just going to read it. It says, the key of David. These are the words of him who is holy and true, who holds the key of David. What he opens, no one can shut, and what he shuts, no one can open. I know your deeds. See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. One of my most circled promises is Revelations 3:7-8. I've prayed this promise hundreds of times in hundreds of different ways. I've seen God open doors that I never imagined I would have access to. I've done things and gone places and met people that I had no business doing, going to, or meeting. So there are, actual scriptures in here, prayers that he's circled, and I do think this is a good way if you are seeking something in life, if you want to become closer to God, if you just want to work on your prayer life, or if you're asking God for something big, the Circle Maker is a great book to get you started for that. As a bonus book, I'm going to throw in my self-published book, Can I Live? The advice every Black girl needs but doesn't know it yet. I self-published this book in 2015, and it was really based off my experience of life in general and then moving to the DC area. So when I say life in general, it talks about my background and how I was the first in my family to decide to go to college, to study business. And so I was making a lot of decisions and doing a lot of things along the way that I didn't really have a lot of help or guidance on. So I wanted to kind of pass down some of the things that I learned and talk about some experiences that were unexpected and possibly help other people along their journey. So in this book, I go through different stories, real stories that happened. I talk about, when I first moved here to DC in 2013 and the job I accepted, I was very excited about it, and how when I got here, it wasn't what I anticipated at all. My manager basically was treating me differently. I was receiving different treatment than everyone else. I was told, not to leave my desk. If I got up, that I needed to let her know, even if it's to go to the bathroom. And this isn't a call center job where everyone has to be on the phone at their desk. This is a regular office job, and that's not the standard anyone else on the floor is being held to. I was just being treated differently. And so I talk about how I dealt with certain things like that throughout my career and give the tools you need to really make it through these situations. So I think that treatment I receive now, years later, I can relate it back to this book, Talking to Strangers, and realize that I was different. This manager in particular, wasn't used to dealing with someone who looks like me and didn't know how to treat me and probably had some biases. So that's just something in life that unfortunately we as Black women have to deal with. I talk about how to like stay strong through these situations, how to focus on your goals and reach your goals. Yeah, and I give basically the tools needed to be successful as a Black woman in America. And if your goal isn't corporate, this is still a book for you, because I talk about making a plan to reach your goals no matter what they are, and how to overcome those obstacles, you know, no matter if it's not in the corporate office, if you look at, you know, actors and the situations that women were facing there with the Me Too movement, like every different industry has its struggles. So I give certain tools that can be applied regardless of industry. So that is Can I Live? It is a short read, 92 pages. So I recommend this if you are in a place in life where you're trying to figure out, you know, how to make a plan for what's next. You kind of know what you want to do, but don't know how to get there. Then this book is for you. All right, guys, that wraps up this video. I hope you've taken away a few books that you want to read, a few things to do while you are being quarantined in your home. I will be back with more quarantine, what you can do at home videos. So let me know in the comments below anything else you'd like to learn about or see, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.